So how many of us here have heard of Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, and Larry Page? Quite obviously, these are household names, and I'm not surprised to see almost everyone's hands go up. So how many of us here have heard of Ken Kotargi, Paul Bichette, and William McKnight? Well, the look of unfamiliarity on most people's faces makes this talk even more relevant today. So the first group of people who I named are those we popularly call entrepreneurs. There's something inherently very appealing and very attractive about these breed of people, and their stories of marching into risks, converting their ideas into action, and their undying passion and motivation to start new ventures. Networks are formulated every day, and initiatives are taken up to inspire and support them. However, in the stories of these enterprises and the visionary entrepreneurs as their creators, we tend to neglect a leading character, the intrapreneur. So who are these intrapreneurs? Well, the second category of people who I named at the outset of this talk are exactly those who I call intrapreneurs. Their impact has been so significant in our lives, their inventions have been so significant, but we still don't know who they really are. And let me warn you, I didn't make up this term myself. It has been around for the last 37 years, since 1978. And whenever I have used the term intrapreneur, I have people coming up to me and saying, hey, Bhavna, it's not intra, it's entrepreneurs. So over the years, there are a few people who've tried to define the term intrapreneur. But the most easily understood definition describes them as people who think and act like entrepreneurs, but from within existing organizations. The CEO of IDEO, which is one of the world's largest innovation and design companies, described intrapreneurs as people who hone less celebrated but more reliable characteristics of innovation. They bring projects to life and are the true innovators who bring together the financial and intellectual capital of the organizations to create impact. I don't know how many of you have heard of Google's 20% time policy. Great. So Google follows a 20% time policy, according to which every employee is required to give 1 day of the week to innovate. And this is really Google's policy to identify the hidden intrapreneurs, to identify those employees who are intrinsically interested to innovate. And Google really followed this policy to basically make innovation the province of not just the elite few, but to make it part of every employee's routine. Paul Bichette was one of these intrapreneurs who was identified through Google's 20% time policy. And Paul worked on his idea for starting 2001, every day of the week that he would get for the next 3 years. And finally, Paul announced his idea to the board of Google in 2004, which popularly we call the Gmail today. William McKnight was just an ordinary bookkeeper when he joined 3M in 1907. However, McKnight was very disturbed by the dire financial situation of 3M. He really wanted for 3M to grow to a level where he envisioned it. And therefore, McKnight would spend most of his time thinking of ways to cut down costs and to innovate new products so that 3M could come to a certain level. McKnight's general manager was very impressed with his initiative and decided to promote him to the cost accountant. However, McKnight kept constantly indulging in research and innovation and finally brought 3M out of the brink of bankruptcy into becoming one of the world's largest multinational conglomerates. This undoubtedly is one of the biggest examples of entrepreneurial success that one can quote. So I'd like to raise a question. What would happen if we place these entrepreneurs in a social context? What would happen if these entrepreneurs are made to work in large organizations to bring about social and environmental impact through the work that they do? Well, a social entrepreneur would be born. Breaking the traditional myth that social change can be brought about only through large-scale social movements or through NGOs, the social entrepreneur ensures that large corporations are socially impactful. He's the lifeblood of these organizations. He's the brain trust of these organizations, and he's the one who brings projects to life. And unlike CSR teams or green teams, social entrepreneurs do not only address the environmental and social challenges, but they also ensure that their work in these organizations is profitable. When Sivakumar first approached Deveshwar, the ITC chairman, with his idea for ITC's agribusiness unit, he didn't realize that he was exhibiting entrepreneurial instincts. Sivakumar's idea was that ITC should procure farm produce directly from the farmers. And this would be beneficial for ITC, A, because they would be able to buy farm produce at wholesale rates, and it would also be beneficial for farmers because they could sell directly to the consumers without having middlemen eat into their profits. The resulting service e-Chopal served ITC to meet both its social and economic objective. And eventually, it was able to reach out to 4 million farmers across 40,000 villages. This clearly is a perfect example of social entrepreneurial success that one can talk of in the Indian context. With that, I'd just like to say that the world is facing superhuman challenges. And we don't really need to wait for superheroes to come and solve these challenges. What we need are heroic professionals. Professionals who are working within corporations, whether in the capacity of marketing managers, supply chain professionals, or even heads of business units. We need them to use their creative craft, their commitment to make their work in these organizations impactful. And with that said, I'd like to conclude by saying that, yes, these entrepreneurs are able to bring about transformational and positive impact in the organizations and society. However, we mustn't forget that they are operating within massively complex environments. Their environments are filled with ambiguity, cynicism, lack of resources, and therefore we really need to celebrate these entrepreneurs. We need to ensure that we shift away from typical conservative organizational structures to structures where the incentive mechanisms, where the communication systems, and where the resources help us to tap into the creative energies of these creative entrepreneurs and unleash their power to drive change. Thank you.